Hello there. Hosepipe bans are starting to come into force over the next few days. For Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, we've got a ban coming in place for Friday, then across southeast England next week, and then the week after that, parts of southern Wales hit by one as well. It's all because we've not seen so much in the way of rain over the course of this year. So far, only 2/3 of the amount of rain we'd normally see has fallen across parts of England. Not quite as dry as 1976, but not too far behind. And there is no rain in the forecast across those very driest areas, not just for the next 5 days, but next week looks completely dry as well. Now, on Thursday, we had some fine spells of sunshine across England and Wales, but for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a few passing showers, one of these captured there in the Highlands.
From today, households in much of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight will be affected by the hosepipe ban. From next Friday, more than 1 million homes in Kent and Sussex will also have a ban enforced. And from August the 19th, a hosepipe ban will be introduced in Wales, in Pembrokeshire and a small part of Carmarthenshire. Just outside London, the River Wear has dried up completely in some places. Millions of people in the capital also face the possibility of a hosepipe ban, with Thames Water saying demand is at its highest for 25 years. This is what much of southern England looks like now. Instead of grass, fields of hay. The country is not yet in drought, but the Met Office are predicting higher temperatures next week, especially in the south, and not much rainfall. Those found flouting the hosepipe bans could be fined £1,000. So what will people do if they catch others using hoses? What will John do?
I'd probably just give him a Paddington Bear stare.
Zoe Conway, BBC News.
Now, Matt's in Hampshire for us this morning. He can tell us much more about where the bans are going to be affecting, which areas are going to be affected by these bans the most. Morning, Matt.
Good morning, Naga. Yes, good morning to all. We're in Testwood Lakes here, just outside Southampton at the moment. A very important reservoir in this neck of the woods. It is fed by the River Test. The River Test is running very low at the moment, and some of this will go back in to the River Test as that, just to keep those levels that little bit high. And that's going to have a devastating impact on wildlife. It's part of the reason this area is being impacted by those hosepipe bans. But of course, let's talk about the rainfall. The sheer lack of rainfall has had a big part to play in it. Across parts of England and Wales, it's been the driest July in around a century. For some in southern England, of course, it has been the driest on record. And it goes way beyond just this past month, because it has been a very dry year so far. And across some parts of the country, we're talking about the driest start to the year. That's up until now, since 1976. And here in Hampshire itself, one of the first places to go under a hosepipe ban, there are some areas who've not had any significant rainfall since the 30th of June, and very little in the forecast as well. So your main areas for those hosepipe bans coming in today are across parts of Hampshire as well as the Isle of Wight. Next week, it looks like South East Water will be introducing their hosepipe bans in across parts of Kent and Sussex. And there are now indications from Dŵr Cymru, Welsh Water, that we're going to see hosepipe bans introduced to parts of Pembrokeshire and Carmarthenshire later this month. And of course, as you saw in the package then, other water companies are also considering things, especially given the fact there is very little rainfall in the forecast for the next 5 to 10 days.
And now,
it looks like he's meditating.
Yeah, you do look like that. Maybe thoughtful about what's happening beneath your feet there, because I mean, I think you're going to show us around. You're a reservoir, aren't you? But the ground there is so dry.
It is so dry, Charlie, and I guess good morning. Just look at that. It's just like straw. And there is that smell as well that comes from the dry grass too. And it's just been completely parched by what has been an exceptionally dry spell of weather, which stretches back all the way to the start of the year in some parts of the country, particularly down here in southern England. And it is having a massive impact, not just on the ground, but on the wildlife and on reservoirs like this, which are substantially down away they should be for this stage in the year. And it's going to have an even bigger impact as Southern Water, for instance, draw from this for drinking water just because the River Test is running so low. This, in parts of Hampshire, Testwood Lakes, is at risk of sort of drying out effectively, and that will have a big impact to the wildlife here. Now, we all know the reason why, of course, is that lack of rainfall coupled by exceptional heat, but there is no real end in sight for some across the southern and eastern parts of the country.
And this is Totton, and it is absolutely beautiful there. The hue of that sky, Matt, is stunning, but not always welcome.
It isn't, no, but it does look idyllic, doesn't it, at the moment, Naga? Very good morning to you. This is Testwood Lakes Wildlife Trust here, but just look at the ground around. Now, the lake itself is dropping quite rapidly. It's going to be potentially drop even further if Southern Water have to tap into it to bring the river level test up to scratch. But you can just see how brown and arid the ground has come. It's a fairly similar picture across many parts of England and Wales, especially at the moment. Now, the hosepipe bans we've been talking about, they're coming into place today here in parts of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, but they will be across other parts, including Kent, Sussex and parts of southwest Wales in the coming weeks, with others watching the situation quite carefully. If there is a hosepipe ban where you are, the ground is looking rather brown. Grass, do not worry, it will recover quite quickly when the rains come. The problem is when that rain will be. And if we take a look at the forecast, at least for the rainfall amounts over the next 5 days or so, it's not coming in any great hurry. Much of southern and eastern UK going to stay dry. You can see the blue colours showing where the rainfall totals will be totting up. Similar sort of areas where we've seen rain, rivers and reservoirs recovering. That's because here you're just on the edge of an area of high pressure which is building its way in, still steering some Atlantic weather systems just into the northern half of the country, but further south where that high pressure dominates, it stays largely dry and things will turn warmer next week.